reaction to that surprising and disturbing and perplexing but almost always provocative decision this morning with three folks from Toledo who are heavily involved in the community, have great insight into what the local community response has been to this verdict. I'd like to introduce them to you now. We have Mr. Sean Reed, who is a local consultant, very much active in the community. We are so happy that you could take time from your schedule to be here with us today. Thank you. We have Sean Malone, who is the Executive Director of Young Men and Women for Change. Sean has been with us before. Always great to have you here. And those of you who watch this show know my friend Albert Earl from the Village 50, who's been here many, many times. We love the fact that you are always so open and so candid about this community's responsibility for change. Thank you very much for being here. All right, let's just hit it right out of the gate. What do you think, Sean?
Well, I think that this incident reminds everyone of the brutality that exists in America and how difficult it is for certain segments of our population to be able to navigate freely without being persecuted or followed or profiled.
All right, do you think that's really the crux of the issue here?
Well, I've talked to some young guys and they're having some difficulty right now understanding how they should navigate throughout the community.
Yeah, that is a question that comes up an awful lot. What do we do now? You know, if we're young black men, what do we do now? What are you guys hearing?
I think we have to look at it from a standpoint of understanding accountability, responsibility, and helping those understand that there were laws that were put in place generations ago that allow us not to be what we call our safe zone, giving us the ability to, like Sean said, be able to navigate effectively through our communities without being racially profiled.
Well, what message does this send? And I know you all, and I know you all fairly well, and I know you all are passionate folks about these kinds of issues, so I expect to see you sharing that with our audience this morning. People need to understand what you are hearing out there, what you are feeling about this. We want to leave this audience today with the importance of this issue as we move forward as a community in Toledo. And you and I talk on Facebook on occasion. It just blew up.
Yes,
blew up last week.
It did. I think you have two things that's going on within our community. One, there's a lot of people that was expecting, and I'm included in that group, that wasn't expecting I was expecting that not guilty verdict.
You were expecting a not guilty verdict.
I was expecting.
Why was that?
Well, because I didn't think that the prosecution did a good job of humanizing who Trayvon was. And when you don't do that and you allow the public to see this person who is being dehumanized, who is actually the victim, I thought that the jury was going to see it in Zimmerman's way.
Well, you know, you raise an interesting point. Was this issue about race, or was it about the fact that people just didn't get to understand, as Trayvon's mom said the other night on TV, they didn't see her son as their son. They didn't see her son as their neighbor. They didn't see her son as that kid who was walking down the street with his bag of Skittles and his iced tea as everybody's son. And that's pretty much what you're getting to.
Right.
Is that the issue, or was this really about race?
I think it was about race. And one of the things that I talked about recently in a workshop that Mr. Reed attended was that it's amazing to me how videos can portray young men in hoods with gold grills in their mouth, and they get awards on TV shows. But then Trayvon was presumed to be a criminal when he has this look. That's two different messages that our young people are getting.
Right.
So what is it? Is it okay to have this same look that you pay rappers a lot of money to portray?
See, I think it's the same message, though. I think it's the same message. And I think that message is that those people that are portrayed with the grills in their mouths are not good people, that they are people that you're supposed to be afraid of. And because we don't challenge that as a community, that's allowed to sustain. And then you have incidences of profiling like this that happen because what? Because there's a lot of support for that profiling,
yes,
right? They win awards for that profiling.
I just want to go back for a moment to the initial comment about the racial issue.
Yeah.
During the phone call, in Zimmerman's own words, he described him in such a manner that made it pretty obvious that he was following someone of color. He made comments, and so when the prosecution initially portrayed, or when the defense initially brought up this issue of it's not about race, but by his own words, he stated that it was racial from the very beginning. So I thought that was kind of an oxymoron.
So those of you, and all of you are working with kids in this community. That's the reason I asked you all to be on. You're all working with kids in this community. What message did this verdict send to them?
Whereas for me, what the message that is sent to the kids that I talked to, I was reading their Facebook, they actually said, Mr. Earl, I finally get it. I get what you've been saying.
What is that? What do you think they get?
Well, that things is not fair when it comes to children and people of color, and it's just a reality.
Right.
And it's something that I think
go ahead, I'm sorry.
I think that we need to have some dialogue amongst ourselves.
Right, right. Please.
I find when out here with the youth, the one thing that I find, and statistics shows this, the census say that any young black male between the age of 17 to 35 would not be accounted for in the next census because they didn't already figured it out. They're going to either be dead or in jail. And if we look at our local newspapers or even across the country, young black males between the age of 17 and 35 are not being accounted for because they are ending up in the prison system or they end up dead. And what we have to find is that, you know, we talk about, is this a race issue? I don't want people to really throw out the race card. I think what people have to understand is that we have to start at home and be able to identify our own issues before we start pointing the finger at those who are finding things unjust.
How come we can't do it all at the same time? You know, here's my concern, and here's my concern about this conversation. My greatest fear about all of this is that this conversation will last until the next big news story, and then it will go away. Because as a community of African Americans, we talk an awful lot about obligation. We talk about we need to come together. How many times have we heard that? We need to come together, we need to come together. But where do we start to hold ourselves accountable for challenging some of these things? You know, when do we start to hold ourselves accountable for challenging media, for profiling? When do we start to hold ourselves accountable for kids who really are not doing their very best? School systems that are failing our kids. What do you think?
Well, if you don't mind.
No, please.
I think what happens is that when we talked about earlier, I had mentioned we talk about a responsibility and an accountability. And what we have to do is we have to challenge those who are in position to be effectively to make those changes. If I have a saying that I say that if we don't change the way we look at things we look at will not begin to change. So if we're not challenging those in the school system, if we're not challenging those in the court system, if we're not challenging our local government, and we're not making a stand for what we feel and what we believe, then when is the change going to be able to start?
See, if I were you guys, I'd be really angry because you all are black men. You know, I would be really something. I don't know if it's angry. Maybe it's frightened. Maybe you're just kind of used to it. I don't know.
Well, some of it is that we, the three of us, we've been saying this for years. We've been talking about this same message. You know, it didn't take the Trayvon Martin incident for us to become aware and active on the message that we're delivering to the community. You know, I've talked to some young guys that are afraid. You know, they're afraid because of their presentation. You know, they don't want to be portrayed as something that they're not. So now they're having to make some paradigm shifts on, you know, can I still wear the loose fit jeans and a hooded sweatshirt on a cool day if I choose to do so without anyone giving me a hard time about it? This kid may be a Catholic school kid, you know, private school kid, a college student. I mean, you can't just look at someone and tell what they represent. So they're struggling with being qualified as something that they're not just by a visual.
So you're kind of the mindset that I've heard around the country that, you know, folks in Chicago, black boys in Chicago are getting killed all day long. Black boys in Detroit are getting killed all day long. This is just another one of those. Is that kind of where you are with this?
Well, this is where I'm at, and I said this on my Facebook page. I don't think truly I will participate in any march, anything that's the community is trying to do to better our community. But in all honesty, I don't think we need another march. I think what we need to do, the demonstration that we need to do, is to demonstrate that we love each other. We need to show the world that we love each other, period.
Who is the we?
African Americans. Because there is two messages going out, whether we want to be honest about it or not. We are in an uproar about this Trayvon Martin situation.
Right.
Was there a 100-city march for the 400 black young men that was killed in Chicago? No. Mm-hmm. Was there a 100-city march for the young men and women that has died here in the last few years? No. We have to get to a point where we truly sit down and talk to ourselves. I don't think we need to have another conversation about race relations, because the truth of the matter is, for over 400 years, we've been in a dysfunctional relationship with America. African Americans need to have a conversation with themselves and be ready to hold each other accountable for the realness that's going on in our community. You need to check your nephew. I need to check my nephews. Not that my nephews are doing anything wrong, but those in our family, those in our community that we know are doing these things that is hindering us, we need to sit down with them and have a conversation.
It's all about accountability.
And bring forth some change. That's right.
I got it. We have to go away for just a second, but you guys will stay with me. We'll be right back. Please stay with us.